My name is Vexthur. I am a xenoanthropologist. I have studied 47 species across 12 sectors of known space. None of them prepared me for what I witnessed on Outpost Cinder. What follows is the story of Kai Mercer, human, Class 12 Death Worlder. He permitted me to observe when I requested access to his workshop. I was changed by it. This is how it began. Look, I'm not saying I'm unlucky. I'm saying the universe has a sick sense of humor. Case in point, the night I won a dragon in a card game and lost everything else. It started with 7 winning hands. It ended with me flat broke, stranded on a station that smelled like burnt ozone and regret, with a dragon nobody wanted. Her name was Cinder. The cards fell in my favor for the 7th time that night. 3 draconid nobles across the table looked ready to bite through their own scaled lips. Their golden eyes burned with something between fury and disbelief as I pulled the pile of credit traveler chips toward myself. I never meant to win this much. I just needed enough to pay for the converter parts my ship desperately needed. 3,000 credits. Maybe 3,500 if the vendor was feeling greedy. The largest draconid's crest flared deep crimson. Vermix, I think his name was. Something unpronounceable, full of clicks and growls my human throat couldn't manage, even if I tried. "You cheat," he hissed. I kept my voice level, though my heart hammered against my ribs. "I don't cheat. Just lucky tonight." That was partly true. I wasn't cheating, my prosthetic arm was. The thing glitched twice a day on average. Phantom signals, system errors, whatever. This time it had decided to disagree with the table's probability matrix. Earth tech and alien systems don't always play nice together. The table's field went haywire. Cards fell where they shouldn't. I didn't plan it, but I wasn't about to explain that to 3 angry reptiles who could tear me apart with their bare claws. I started to stand ready to walk away before things turned violent. The orbital station above Draconis 7 had security, but they rarely intervened when humans got into trouble with the locals. Humans were guests here, tolerated, not protected. The second draconid, smaller but with sharper teeth visible in his sneer, placed a clawed hand on the table. "You want payment? Yes. We are honorable. We pay our debts." The way he said it made my stomach clench. "We give you prize from our stables. A dragon of your very own." The third draconid started laughing, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Yes, yes, a dragon for the human. This is perfect." I knew enough about draconid culture to understand this wasn't generosity. Dragons were worth fortunes. They were used in warfare and racing in displays of wealth and power across 100 worlds. No one gave away a dragon to settle a gambling debt worth maybe 4,000 credits. "That's not necessary," I said carefully. "I'll just take the credits." No, we insist." Vermix stood his massive frame, towering over my 6 feet. Come now. We show you your prize." His companions were already moving toward the exit, their tails swishing with barely contained amusement. I followed, not because I wanted to, because refusing a draconid's offer, especially in front of a crowd, was a good way to start a blood feud. They led me through corridors that grew progressively darker and less maintained. The smell changed too, from the sterile recycled air of the station proper to something organic and unpleasant, antiseptic over decay. Like they cleaned to hide the dying, not stop it. We reached a section I'd never seen before. The lighting was dim, powered by emergency strips. Cages lined the walls, most of them empty. A few contained shapes that moved sluggishly in the darkness. The draconids walked quickly now, their laughter growing louder. "Here!" The smallest one stopped before a cage in the corner, barely large enough to hold a small cargo container. "Your prize." I stepped closer, my eyes adjusting to the gloom. At first I saw nothing but shadow. Then the shape moved, and I understood why they were laughing. She was small for a dragon, maybe the size of an old earth horse. Her scales were pure white, not the healthy ivory of albino creatures I'd seen in pictures, but a sickly yellowish white like old bone. She pressed herself against the far corner of the cage, one wing tucked tight against her body, the other hanging at an odd angle. Her head was lowered. When she lifted it slightly to look at us, I saw that one eye was clouded white with blindness. The other eye, pale gold, held nothing but fear and resignation. "This is Cinder," Vermix said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Failed breeding experiment. Weak genetics. Blind in one eye, wing membrane, torn beyond healing. Cannot fly, cannot fight, cannot breed. We were going to dispose of her next week, but now she is your problem instead." The 3 draconids erupted in fresh laughter, slapping each other's shoulders and tails. I moved closer to the cage, ignoring them. The dragon watched me with her one good eye. I saw intelligence there, buried under layers of pain and hopelessness. Her scales were scarred, some missing entirely. Her claws were overgrown from lack of use. She hadn't walked properly in a long time. Then I saw the scars on her damaged wing. They weren't random, they spelled something. Project Seraph, 7-7 neural failure, 7 attempts. They'd tried to weaponize her brain 7 times. Bond it to combat systems probably. Turn her into a living weapon. And when she survived but didn't perform, they'd thrown her away. Just like Corvus Thorn threw me away after the mine collapse. I knew that look in her eye. I'd seen it in mirrors after the accident. After they told me my arm was gone and my career was over and I was too broken to be useful anymore. How long has she been in here? I asked quietly. 3 years, one of the Draconids answered, still chuckling. Maybe 4. Who counts? She eats little, makes no sound. Easy to forget. Something hot and angry rose in my chest. I had seen this before in different forms. Broken equipment left to rust because fixing it was harder than buying new. Injured workers cast aside because they couldn't keep up. I'd been one of those workers once. I understood what it meant to be deemed worthless. I'll take her, I said. The laughter stopped. Vermix stared at me. You what? I said I'll take her. That's my prize. I want her. I met his gaze without flinching. The 3 aliens exchanged confused glances. This was supposed to be a joke, a final insult. The human was supposed to refuse to walk away in disgust. You understand she is worthless. She will die soon anyway. Waste of food and space. I understand she's mine now. I need transport authorization and transfer papers. I pulled out my data pad ready to make it official. The Draconids, baffled and slightly disappointed that their joke had backfired, processed the paperwork with sullen efficiency. Within an hour, I had legal ownership of one crippled albino dragon named Cinder. The transport cost to my workshop on Outpost Cinder would eat up most of my winnings. 2,800 credits, I'd have 1,400 left. Not enough for converter parts, barely enough for a week of food. But I didn't care. When the Draconids finally left still muttering about crazy humans, I approached the cage alone. I knelt down slowly, making myself small and non-threatening. The dragon hadn't moved. She watched me with that one golden eye, waiting for pain, for cruelty, for the inevitable end. Hey there, Cinder, I said softly. My prosthetic arm rested on my knee. The joint made a small, whirring sound as it moved. Old servo's cheap parts. It sparked slightly. Always did when I bent the elbow too far. Cinder stared at the sparks, tilted her head, curious. I know you've been hurt, I continued. I know you think nobody cares. But I'm going to get you out of here. And if you'll let me, I'm going to help you fly again. The dragon blinked slowly. She didn't believe me. Why would she? But somewhere in that pale gold eye, something flickered. Not hope. Not yet. But maybe the smallest possibility that this strange soft skin was different from the others. I reached out slowly, let my prosthetic hand rest against the cage bars. Cinder watched it. The sparking, the twitching, the broken machinery trying to work. Then she did something I didn't expect. She moved forward, just a few inches, and touched her snout to my prosthetic arm. Cold metal meeting warm scales. I felt something break open in my chest, relief and recognition, and a dozen other emotions I couldn't name. Yeah, I whispered. I'm broken too. Getting Cinder to my workshop took 3 days and cost me nearly every credit I had left. The transport company wanted extra fees for live cargo, especially a dragon. They wanted hazard pay. They wanted insurance deposits. They wanted bribes to look the other way when their scanners detected her Project Seraph implants. By the time the cargo container arrived at Outpost Cinder's docking bay, I was surviving on nutrient paste and water. My workshop sat in the industrial sector, a cramped space barely large enough for my repair bench, storage lockers, and a small living area I'd carved out behind a partition wall. 40 square meters of organized chaos. The rent was cheap because the environmental systems were unreliable and the walls were thin enough to hear every ship that docked 3 bays over. It was home, and now I had to make room for a dragon. Cinder emerged from the transport container like a ghost. She moved slowly, painfully, dragging her damaged wing behind her. In better lighting, I could see the full extent of her condition. It was worse than I'd thought. Ribs showed clearly through her thin scales. Open sores marked places where she'd lain in the same position too long. Her claws scraped against the metal floor as she limped forward. She hissed when I approached, a weak sound that held more fear than threat. Her good eye darted around the workshop, searching for danger, for escape routes, for anything familiar in this strange new place. Easy, I murmured, staying low, moving slow. You're safe here, I promise. I'd cleared out the back corner of the workshop, laying down every blanket and soft material I own. It wasn't much, but it was better than a cage. Cinder made her way to the corner and collapsed, her legs folded under her like they couldn't hold her weight another second. She tucked her head under her good wing and didn't move again for hours. I got to work. First priority was food and water. I'd researched dragon nutrition during the transport ride over, draining my datapad's battery twice. Dragons were obligate carnivores requiring specific proteins and minerals. The cheapest option was processed meat blocks from the station commissary fortified with supplements. I bought enough for a week and hoped I could figure out how to afford more before they ran out. I placed a bowl of water and small chunks of meat near Cinder. Not too close. Didn't want to spook her. She ignored them. Hours passed. The meat sat untouched. I forced myself to sleep for a few hours. When I woke, the food was gone and Cinder was watching me from her corner, her golden eye reflecting the dim emergency lights I kept on at night. That became our pattern. I worked during the day taking repair jobs from other station residents, fixing broken machinery, welding cracked hull plates, programming navigation systems, anything to earn credits. Between jobs, I sat near Cinder, talked to her in a low, steady voice, told her about my work, about the station, about nothing and everything. She never responded. But she listened. I could tell by the way her ear frills would shift toward the sound of my voice. On the fourth day I had my first visitor. I heard someone moving in the air ducts above my workbench. Not unusual, the ducts connected most of the industrial sector. Scavengers used them to move around unseen. What was unusual was when a skinny 13-year-old girl dropped out of the vent and landed on my floor with a metallic clang. "Zara," I said without looking up from the circuit board I was soldering. "What did I tell you about breaking into my workshop?" "You said stop doing it," she replied cheerfully. "I'm bad at following instructions." Zara was human, short for her age, all elbows and knees, with dark hair she kept in a perpetual tangle. She'd been living on the station for 2 years, ever since her parents' ship had docked for repairs and left without her. Accident or abandonment, I never asked. Didn't matter. She survived. "I brought you something." She held up a data chip. "Recorded your repair technique from last week. The one where you fixed that plasma regulator with dental wire and spit." "I didn't use spit." "Fine, dental wire and determination. Posted it on the tech forums. Made 600 credits. I finally looked up. "You've been recording me. For 6 months, you fix things other people throw away. Aliens pay good money for tutorials on human improvisation." She said it like it was obvious, like I should have known. I didn't know whether to be impressed or concerned. Also, Zara continued, noticing Cinder for the first time. "You got a dragon. When did that happen?" 3 days ago. Long story." Zara approached Cinder's corner slowly. The dragon watched her, tense but not hissing. "She's pretty," Zara said softly, in a broken kind of way. "Yeah, she is." "What are you going to do with her?" I looked at Cinder, at the scars on her wing, at the fear and resignation in her eye. "I'm going to help her fly." Zara turned to stare at me. "She can't fly. Look at her wing." "I know. That's why I need to build her something. A support frame. Mechanical assistance." "That's impossible." "Probably, but impossible just means nobody's done it yet." Zara grinned, the kind of grin that said she was about to make my life more complicated. "Can I help?" That was how Zara became part of this. Part of us. The next visitor arrived 2 days later. Dr. Sable Voss didn't knock. She walked into my workshop like she owned it, carrying a heavy medical case and an expression of intense focus. She was older, maybe 55, with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that had seen too much suffering. She moved with the casual strength of someone who'd grown up on Earth, unbothered by the station's lower gravity. "I heard a human brought a dragon to Outpost Cinder," she said without preamble. "I had to see if it was Seraph 7. She looked past me to where Cinder lay in her corner. Her face went very still. "It's her," Sable whispered. "She's alive." "You know her?" Sable set down her case, moved closer to Cinder, slowly, professionally. The dragon watched but didn't retreat. "I knew all 7, Sable said. "I was lead xenobiologist on Project Seraph. It was supposed to be revolutionary, neural bonding between dragons and pilots, symbiotic combat systems." She knelt near Cinder, studying the scars with a practiced eye. 7 trials, 7 pilots. My daughter was one of them. The workshop suddenly felt very cold. Maya, she was 18, brilliant. She believed dragons could bond with anyone if given the choice. Sable's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. Corvus Thorne, the project director, said we couldn't wait for natural bonding. He forced the connection, pushed the neural interface too hard, too fast. What happened? They died, all 7 pilots. Massive neural feedback. Thorne called them acceptable casualties for advancement. Shut down the project. Had the dragons marked for disposal. She looked up at me. Cinder was the last, Seraph 7. I thought they'd killed her 3 years ago. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Corvus Thorne, I said. Tall guy human works for the Draconic Preservation Guild now. You know him? We worked together once in the mining sector. He was my partner. I held up my prosthetic arm. Until the tunnel collapsed. He blamed my safety modifications. Said I was reckless. Got me fired, took my design, started a new career. The pieces were falling into place. Corvus hadn't just thrown me away. He'd thrown away 7 pilots, 7 dragons, anyone who didn't serve his purposes. Sable stood brushing dust from her knees. Why did you take her? She asked. You must know she's not valuable. She's not broken beyond repair, I said firmly. She's just broken in ways no one's been willing to fix. Sable studied me for a long moment. Then she smiled, faint but genuine. I can help. Medical support, biological data, whatever you need, no charge. Why? Because Maya believed every dragon deserved a chance. Because Corvus Thorne killed my daughter and 7 others and walked away rich. Because you're right. She looked at Cinder. She's not beyond repair. That night after Sable left and Zara went back to wherever she slept, I had one more visitor. A draconid in observer robes stood in my doorway, taller than the nobles but thinner, older. They carried recording equipment and a datapad covered in notes. I am Vexthar, they said, xenoanthropologist. I request permission to document your work with the dragon. I looked up from my tools. Why? Because humans attempted the impossible with alarming regularity. I wish to understand why. I shrugged. Sure, just don't get in the way. Vex moved to a corner, set up their equipment, and began observing in silence. That became another pattern. Vex watching recording, occasionally asking questions that felt more philosophical than scientific. Later, I sat with Cinder in the quiet. I was working on my prosthetic arm. The elbow joint had seized up again. I had the casing open tool spread out around me. Cinder had been watching from her corner, like she often did. Then she stood. She limped across the workshop, slowly, painfully. She stopped beside me, lowered her head, and gently touched her snout to my broken arm. It was the first time she'd initiated contact. I felt tears burn in my eyes, didn't try to stop them. Slowly, carefully, I raised my other hand and touched her scarred neck. She didn't pull away. We're going to figure this out, I whispered. Together. Cinder made a soft, rumbling sound, not fear, not pain, something else, something that might have been hope. 3 weeks passed. Cinder ate regularly now. Her wounds healed. Her scales began to show a healthier sheen. She moved with more confidence, though the damaged wings still dragged. Sable visited twice a week with medical supplies and advice. Zara helped with small tasks, bringing scavenged parts and chattering about engineering theories she'd learned from station maintenance crews. I designed, failed, redesigned. The support frame had to be lightweight but strong, flexible but stable. It had to integrate with Cinder's biology without causing pain or restricting natural movement. I'd built 7 prototypes. None of them worked. On the morning of week 4, everything changed. I was in my workshop, staring at Blueprint Revision 43, when every screen in the station lit up with an emergency broadcast. A face appeared, human, late 50s, handsome in a cold, calculated way. Corvus Thorne. Greetings, citizens of the outer sectors. I am Corvus Thorne, Vice President of the Draconic Preservation Guild. I bring exciting news. My hands clenched into fists. The grand trials will be held in 10 weeks on Draconis Prime. The greatest dragons in known space will compete in tests of speed, strength, and endurance. It will be a celebration of genetic excellence. He smiled, sharp, predatory. However, we have become aware of unauthorized modifications being performed on registered dragons. This is unacceptable. All modified organisms must either compete in the trials to prove their viability or submit to wellness evaluation. Wellness evaluation. Euthanasia by another name. Failure to comply will be interpreted as admission of suffering. We are, after all, compassionate. The broadcast ended. Sable arrived within minutes. Zara dropped from the air duct. Both of them looked at me. He knows, Sable said. He knows Cinder's here. This is a trap, Zara added. Either you compete and she fails publicly, or you refuse and they kill her. I looked at Cinder. She was watching the now dark screen, her ear frills flat against her head. She understood. Maybe not the words, but the threat. It's your choice, I said to her. I can fight this in court. Try to delay. Or we can show them what broken really means. Cinder stood, spread her wings as far as the damaged one would allow. She chirped 3 times. A new sound, clear, certain. I'd learned her vocalizations over the past weeks. This one was unmistakable. Yes, I pulled up my datapad, started recording. Corvus, you're right about one thing. Natural selection exists. It selected humans on a Class 12 death world where the rain is acid and the wildlife hunts in packs. We survived by refusing to leave anyone behind, by making broken things work. I looked directly at the camera. So yeah, we'll be at your trials, and we'll prove that worthless is just a word used by people who gave up too easily. I sent the recording, posted it publicly. Station-wide, then sector-wide, then beyond. Within 48 hours, it had 400 million views. The comments were split. Mockery, support, horror. But they were talking. The galaxy was watching. I had 10 weeks to build a miracle. I'd worked with worse odds. Cinder stood beside me, her golden eye bright with something I hadn't seen before. Not hope, not yet, but determination. We were broken things, both of us. And broken things had a way of surprising people. Xenoanthropologist log supplemental. Vexthar recording. I have requested assignment to document Kai Mercer's attempt. The guild approved. They want footage of inevitable failure. I began to suspect they underestimate human stubbornness. First of many miscalculations, human pack bonding occurs with unprecedented speed. Kai, Cinder, Zara, Sable. 4 individuals from different species and circumstances, united in 21 days. My species requires years for such bonds. Humans treat strangers as family by default. It is terrifying. It is beautiful. I do not yet understand which terrifies me more. End log. Frame version 1 was too heavy. I'd used titanium because it was the best. Premium grade. Military specification. The kind of material the guild used for their champion dragons. Cinder couldn't even lift off the ground. I stood in the workshop staring at 2,000 credits worth of useless metal and laughed. Not from joy, from the absurdity of it all. Best for what? I muttered, pulling the frame apart. Best for looking expensive while accomplishing nothing. Zara sat cross-legged on my workbench, watching me dismantle my failure. You seem calm, she observed. Failure's just data. Angry data doesn't help you fix anything. I needed to think like a miner again. Light, flexible, redundant. Materials that could take punishment and keep working. Frame version 2 took 3 weeks. I used composite alloys, salvaged from broken cargo haulers. The flex points were beautiful, engineered with precision I was genuinely proud of. It snapped during the first ground test. Wrong flexibility, too much give in the support structure. Cinder's weight distribution was different than I'd calculated. Back to the blueprints. 6 weeks into our 10-week deadline, Sable made a discovery. She arrived at the workshop carrying her medical scanner and an expression I'd never seen before. Excitement, wonder, maybe fear. Kai, I need you to look at something. She pulled up a 3-dimensional scan of Cinder's body, focused on the scars along her wing and chest. I've been analyzing her tissue samples. The scars aren't scar tissue. I leaned closer. What? They're nanites, sentient biotech from a pre-guild civilization, older than any current technology we have. The scan highlighted millions of microscopic structures threaded through Cinder's muscles and nervous system. They pulsed with faint bioelectric signatures. They've been keeping her alive, Sable continued, routing neural signals around damaged pathways, compensating for her injuries. She should have died years ago from organ failure. The nanites won't let her. I stared at the screen. Project Seraph wasn't trying to bond dragons to pilots, I said slowly. They were trying to bond them to ancient technology. Exactly. 7 pilots, 7 attempts to force the connection. But the nanites can't be forced. They choose their hosts. Sable looked at Cinder, who was watching us from her corner with her usual patient curiosity. The nanites chose her, not because she was strong, because she was compatible. Corvus called it failure because he couldn't control the outcome. She's not a failed experiment, I whispered. She's a successful hybrid. Everything changed after that. Frame version 4 integrated with the nanites. I designed connection points that the biotech could interface with directly, used materials that conducted bioelectric signals. I built it from parts of my old mining rig. Kitchen induction coils I bought from the commissary. Anti-grav plates Zara scavenged from a recycling depot. Sable watched me solder a weapons-grade power regulator to a food heating device. "This should not work," she said. It worked. The frame was ugly, asymmetric, cobbled together from 7 different technologies that had no business functioning as a unit. But when I placed it on Cinder's back, the nanites reached out to it. Connected, integrated. Her scales rippled. The faint blue glow of the biotech spread through the frame's circuitry. For the first time in years, Cinder's damaged wing extended fully, supported, stable. She made a sound I'd never heard, high-pitched, almost like joy. Then she looked at me with both eyes. The clouded one had cleared, just slightly. The nanites were healing her from the inside out. "Holy shit," Zara breathed. I'd worked 48 hours straight to finish the frame. No stimulants, no breaks, just coffee and focus. When you know someone's life depends on you not screwing up, sleep feels like a waste. The cost of materials had consumed everything I had left. I'd sold my ship's backup reactor, the converter I'd originally needed, all my salvage parts inventory. I was stranded on Outpost Cinder now. No way off without begging for passage. Didn't matter. Cinder mattered. 4 weeks until the trials. Time to see if broken things could fly. I'd booked Cargo Bay 7 during off hours. Told station management it was cargo handling practice. Technically true. Very opinionated cargo. Sable ran final systems checks. Zara monitored the frame's power output from her jury-rigged console. Cinder stood at the launch position, wings spread, frame gleaming under emergency lights. The bay was 300 meters long, 20 meters high, not much room, but it was all we had. "Cinder," I said, standing beside her, "start slow. The generator will feel different from natural flight. Let it guide you, don't fight it." She chirped once, "Ready?" I stepped back, gave her space. Cinder launched. The first 3 seconds were perfect. Her wings beat in sync. The frame supported her damaged membrane. The generator hummed, creating localized electromagnetic fields that interacted with her biology exactly as designed. She was flying. Then I heard the sound. Metal fatigue, a frequency I knew from years of mining accidents. The left strut was failing. Cinderland now. She didn't hear me, or maybe she did and didn't care. She was flying for the first time in years. She wasn't going to stop. The strut buckled with a sound like breaking glass. Cinder's damaged wing collapsed. The frame tore into her shoulder. She twisted midair trying to compensate, but momentum was against her. She hit the deck hard. Her body tumbled. The frame scraped across metal with a horrible screeching sound. I was running before I knew my legs were moving. No, no, no. Blood seeped from where the twisted frame had cut into her shoulder. Her breathing was rapid, shallow. Her good eye was wide with shock and pain. "Sable, I need help." Sable was already there, medical case open. She worked quickly. Pain medication, pressure bandages. Her hands were steady even as mine shook. "It's not deep," she said. "The frame took most of the impact. She'll be okay physically." But Cinder wasn't okay. I could see it in her eyes. She had tried. She had dared to hope. And she had failed. In front of everyone. Because I'd realized too late that we weren't alone. Kai," Zara's voice was small. "Station net is, there's 4,000 people watching us." "What?" I may have accidentally live-streamed the test. I wanted to be angry. Couldn't find the energy. The damage was done. On Zara's screen, I could see the comments scrolling past. Laughter, mockery, betting pools on how quickly we'd give up. Then a new video feed opened. Corvus Thorn broadcasting from Draconis Prime. "Ladies and gentlemen, witness the price of sentiment. That creature should have died years ago. Mercer prolongs her suffering. I move for immediate wellness termination." The crowd around us, 4,000 strangers watching our failure, erupted in debate. Some agreed with Corvus. Others argued back. I ignored them all. Cinder was struggling to stand. Her legs shook. The broken frame hung from her body like a metal parasite. "Cinder, please. You're hurt. Let me remove the frame first." She made a sound, low, almost a growl. I'd never heard it from her before. It was frustration, determination, and something else. Refusal. She positioned herself where she'd started, wings trembling with effort and pain. She looked at me, chirped 3 times. The same sound from 4 weeks ago when I'd asked if she wanted to try. "Yes. You can't fly with the frame broken. It won't work. It'll hurt you more." She chirped again, louder. Kai, Sable's hand on my shoulder. Look at the frame. The left side is gone, yes, but the right side is still functional. The generator is undamaged. She can't fly asymmetrically. The imbalance would be impossible to control. For a normal dragon, yes, but Cinder has been flying asymmetrically her whole life, compensating for her damaged wing. She knows her body better than we do. Sable met my eyes. If she thinks she can do this, maybe we should trust her. I looked at Cinder, at the determination in her eye, at the way she held herself despite the pain. She had survived 3 years in a cage, 7 attempts to weaponize her brain, months of recovery, and she was still here, still fighting, still refusing to give up. Okay, I said quietly. Okay, but we do this smart. I ran a diagnostic on what remained of the frame. The right strut was solid, all connections secure. The generator output was actually higher than before, as if Cinder was pouring more power into it to compensate. Everything's stable on the functional side, but you'll have to fly with your left wing mostly unsupported. It's going to hurt. One chirp. She understood. She didn't care. 4,000 people watching. Corvus Thorn waiting for her to fail again. Cinder launched. She wobbled immediately. The asymmetric lift threw her balance off. She dipped, left, nearly crashed into the bay wall. Then she corrected. Her instincts took over. Years of compensating for damage. The nanites formed reactive patterns in her wing membrane, creating makeshift support where the frame had failed. She climbed higher. The crowd's laughter died. People watched in stunned silence as the crippled albino dragon circled Cargo Bay 7. Her flight wasn't graceful. It wasn't elegant. She wobbled and dipped and fought for every meter of altitude. But she was flying. On her third circle, she dove, swooped low over where I stood. I felt the wind from her wing beats, saw the fierce joy in her golden eye as she passed. She landed roughly. Her damaged shoulder buckled. She collapsed onto the deck sides, heaving. But she was making that rumbling sound, the one that meant happiness. The crowd erupted, not in mockery this time, in something else. Amazement, respect, awe. 4,000 strangers cheering for a dragon no one had wanted. I rushed to her side. Sable was right behind me. We removed what remained of the broken frame, treated her wounds, checked her vitals. Cinder bore it all patiently. Her eye never left my face. You did it, I whispered. You actually did it. She chirped 4 times. A new sound. I didn't know what it meant yet, but it felt important. The feed from Corvus Thorn was still active. His face had gone very still. Circus trick, he said finally. The grand trials will expose this farce. 4 weeks, Mercer. Bring your broken pet. Let the galaxy watch her break permanently. The transmission ended. Zara was staring at her screen. Kai, the video has 2 million views already. It's going viral. Good, Yin, I said. Let them watch. Let the whole galaxy watch. That night after the crowd dispersed and Sable went home and Zara disappeared into the ducts, a message arrived. Official guild transmission. An invitation to the grand trials. But not just an invitation. An ultimatum. All unregistered modified organisms must compete or submit to wellness evaluation. No exceptions, no delays. Cinder would fly at the trials or she would die. Sable arrived within an hour of the message going public. This is a trap, she said. Corvus wants to destroy you in front of the entire galaxy. I know, I said quietly. That's what he does. Destroys people who threaten his narrative. Whatever he calls himself, he's not doing this for genetic purity. He's doing it because you threaten his narrative. Zara dropped from the ceiling vent. If you don't go, he wins by default. If you go and fail, he gets his proof that modified dragons are inferior. I looked at both of them, at Cinder, who was watching from her corner with patient eyes. We're going, I said, not to prove Corvus wrong, to prove Cinder deserves to live. The next 3 weeks were a blur. I built frame version 8, incorporated everything I'd learned from 7 failures, made it stronger, made it balanced, added redundancies for every system. Sable trained Cinder on endurance and pain management, taught her to consciously control the nanites to direct their energy where she needed it most. Zara programmed neural interface upgrades, spent 18 hours a day in front of code editors optimizing response times and fail-safes, and I slept maybe 60 hours total. We left Outpost Cinder on a convoy of 12 ships, people I'd done repair work for, owners of dragons I'd helped. Some had nothing to gain. They volunteered anyway. Zara said humans call it solidarity. Aliens call it irrational resource allocation. I call it friendship. The journey to Draconis Prime took 3 weeks. I spent most of it in the cargo hold with Cinder making final adjustments to her frame. On day 14 of travel, I found the bomb. I was doing routine maintenance on the frame's charging station. Noticed a wire 0.3 millimeters out of alignment. Mining training kicked in. That's detonator placement. Zara, can you grab me a sandwich? I said calmly, and evacuate cargo bay 3. There's a bomb. What? Badly made one. Amateur use 3 millimeter detonator cord. Professionals use 5. I've seen enough accidents to know the difference. I disarmed it while eating. Death World childhood. You learn things. Sable found me later that evening sitting with Cinder in the quiet. Maya believed dragons could bond with anyone if given the choice, she said. Corvus forced the bonding. That's why Sarah failed. Cinder bonded with you because she chose to. I stroked Cinder's neck, felt her warmth, her trust. Then we're not fighting, Corvus, I said. We're proving Maya was right. We arrived at Draconis Prime on week 14, day 1. The main hangar held 200 purebred dragons, each one worth more than I'd make in 10 lifetimes. Perfect scales, perfect wings, perfect everything. Handlers fussed over them, adjusting harnesses, polishing claws. These dragons were investments, showpieces, weapons. Cinder walked off our transport ship. The crowd parted. Conversations stopped. Everyone stared at her pale scales, her visible scars, the obvious frame on her back, the way she moved with a slight limp. Whispers spread through the hangar like fire. The Revenant. Dead dragon walking. Seraph's ghost. Good, I thought. Let them talk. We didn't come here to fit in. A Draconid official approached. His crest was decorated with gems marking high rank in the guild. Kai Mercer, human entry 47. Your dragon will compete in all standard events. Speed trial combat simulation endurance run in Storm Gauntlet. Any failure to complete an event results in disqualification. I understand. Good, your first event begins tomorrow at dawn. Try not to embarrass yourself too badly. He walked away, tail swishing with satisfaction. Sable appeared from the crowd. I've been listening to other handlers. The guilds stacked the competitions with their best dragons. Every participant here is either a champion or a rising star. Then we'll just have to do our best. I led Cinder to our assigned space, a corner spot, away from the premium dragons, the place they put entries they expected to fail. Perfect. I set up our equipment, checked the frame one final time, fed Cinder her evening meal. She ate calmly. No fear, no hesitation. She knew what was coming. She was ready. Across the hangar, I saw him, Corvus Thorn, standing in the guild observation box, looking down at us with cold calculation. He'd aged well. Success suited him. Expensive clothes, perfect posture, the bearing of someone who'd never faced consequences for his choices. He saw me watching, smiled, raised a glass in mock salute. I didn't respond, just turned back to Cinder. Tomorrow, I said quietly, we show them what broken means. She chirped 4 times. That new sound. I still didn't know what it meant, but I trusted it. Xenoanthropologist log, Vexthar recording. Week 14, arrival at Grand Trials. Kai discovered 3 sabotage attempts during travel. Disarmed explosive device while consuming food. Statement, bomb making is universal. Human Death World childhood includes explosive recognition as basic skill. This species remains terrifying. Cinder's entrance created phenomenon. The Revenant trending across 40 worlds. Kai's strategy is working. They are already legend before competing. I have requested permission to remain on assignment through trial completion. Guild approved. They want comprehensive documentation of failure. I suspect they underestimate what they are witnessing. Humans do not compete to win. They compete to prove you were wrong to doubt them. The difference is significant. End log. The speed trial began at dawn. 25 dragons lined up at the starting positions. Sleek bodies coiled with potential energy. Scales gleaming in the artificial light. Each one bred for velocity. Each one perfect. Cinder stood among them, pale and scarred and wrong. The course was simple. Fly through floating beacons in the fastest time possible. Straightaways to test raw speed. Sharp turns to test agility. I watched from the ground display as the first 3 dragons completed their runs. Blurs of color and power. Times in the low 40s. 43 seconds. 41. 40. Then Cinder's turn. She launched smoothly. The frame held. Generator synchronized with her nanites. She wasn't as fast on the straightaways. Her damaged biology couldn't match the raw muscle power of purebreds. But on the turns, she was different. The frame allowed her to bank at angles that should have stalled her, physics-defying geometry. Mining rig technology designed for tight asteroid tunnels. She took lines through the course that pure dragons couldn't manage without losing speed. Crossed the finish at 47 seconds. 14th place out of 25. Respectable. Solid middle of the pack. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some applauded politely. Others booed. A few looked thoughtful, like they were reconsidering their assumptions. Corvus watched from the guild box. No expression. But I saw his jaw tighten. He'd expected her to fail spectacularly, to prove his point in the first event. She hadn't. The combat simulation came next. Dragons faced holographic opponents, testing agility, tactical thinking reflexes. Not about violence, about maneuverability and decision-making under pressure. Cinder struggled. Her modified flight style made some evasive maneuvers difficult, and her blind spot's still there despite the nanites' healing created vulnerabilities the simulation exploited ruthlessly. She finished 19th out of 25. Bottom third. The crowd's response was louder now. More boos, more laughter. Someone shouted, "Send the broken thing home." I clenched my fists. Forced myself to stay calm. Cinder landed beside me. I helped her down, checked her over. The frame had held. No injuries. Just fatigue and frustration. "You did great," I said quietly. "That sim was designed for predators. You're a survivor. Different game." She made a frustrated sound, but chirped once. She wanted to continue. The endurance run was scheduled for the next day. 50 kilometers. Sustained flight without rest. Designed to eliminate the weak. To prove which bloodlines had superior stamina. 23 dragons started. Cinder found her pace early. A comfortable cruising speed that the frame and generator could maintain indefinitely. The purebred dragons pulled ahead quickly. Powerful wing beats carrying them faster. But endurance wasn't about speed. It was about refusing to quit. At 30 kilometers, dragons started dropping out. The pace was punishing. The course deliberately routed through areas of turbulent air. Cinder struggled through the turbulence. Her smaller size made her vulnerable to wind gusts, but the frame held. The generator adjusted its output, automatically compensating. At 40 kilometers, half the competition had withdrawn. Cinder was still flying. I monitored her vitals from the ground station. Heart rate elevated but stable. The frame's power cells at 60%. She could finish. Sable leaned over my shoulder, studying the biometric data. "Kai, look at this." She highlighted a pattern in Cinder's metabolism, something unusual in how her body was processing energy. "The nanites are converting lactic acid to fuel." "What?" "Human endurance metabolism. When we run long distances, our bodies convert waste products into usable energy. The nanites are doing the same thing for Cinder." I stared at the data. They learned it from bonding with me. Or they chose her because she had the genetic potential. Either way, she has human-level persistence. Cinder crossed the finish line at 48 minutes. 7th place out of 23 starters. The crowd erupted, not in mockery this time, in genuine amazement. A modified dragon, one that wasn't supposed to fly at all, had outlasted purebreds worth fortunes. I met her at the landing area, threw my arms around her neck. "You were amazing. 7 others couldn't even finish." But Cinder wasn't looking at me. She was staring past me toward the event board, at the final challenge. Storm Gauntlet. The crowd was chanting her name now. Cinder, Cinder, Cinder. Aliens who'd mocked her were cheering. Humans in the stands were losing their minds. We'd gone from joke to contender in 48 hours. That evening I had a visitor, Lord Kelthar Ash, an elderly draconid, scales faded with age, 800 years old, one of the guild's founding members. He moved slowly, leaning on a support cane, but his eyes were sharp, clear. "Kai Mercer," he said, "I am Maya Voss's grandfather." The world stopped. "I funded Project Seraph," Kelthar continued. "I approved the neural bonding protocols. I signed off on the accelerated timeline. I killed my own granddaughter through arrogance." I didn't know what to say. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because tomorrow is Storm Gauntlet. I changed the rules, and Corvus Thorn will destroy you if I don't warn you." He pulled up a data pad, showed me the new regulations. Mandatory all-Storm Gauntlet competitors must use 0 external power. Only biological systems permitted. "They ban generators," I whispered. "Cinder can't fly on 15% organ function." "Corvus engineered this rule change specifically to eliminate you. He has the votes. The announcement goes public in 6 hours. Kael'thar met my eyes. I cannot stop it, but I can give you time to prepare. I owe Maya that much. I owe Cinder that much. He left without waiting for a response. I called an emergency meeting. Sable, Zara, Cinder. It's impossible, Sable said. Without the generator, the frame can't compensate for her wing. She'll drop in 10 seconds. We could protest, Zara suggested. This is targeted, clearly discriminatory. I sat in silence thinking, what if we remove the generator entirely? They stared at me. She'll die, Sable said flatly, unless the frame is passive, pure mechanical support. No power, and she flies on 15% organ function, nanites, and will. That's insane. Probably, but Cinder's been flying on broken systems her whole life. Maybe that's her advantage. Normal dragons depend on their organs working at full capacity. Cinder learned not to. I looked at her. What do you think? Cinder was silent for a long moment. Then she chirped 4 times. That sound I still didn't understand, but I trusted it. We had 12 hours to prepare. I taught Cinder something humans do well. Controlled panic, using trauma as fuel, channeling fear into power. On Earth, I explained, we say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You survived 7 attempts to weaponize your brain. You're 7 times stronger. Use it. Cinder's nanites began to glow. Faint at first, then brighter, white hot. I'd never seen that before. She's activating adrenaline response, Sable breathed, teaching her biology to fight, to rage. At midnight, Guild security arrived. They took Zara. What's the charge? I demanded. Technology theft, unauthorized access to Guild systems. Corvus appeared via hologram, smiling. Withdraw from Storm Gauntlet Mercer. The charges disappear. Zara goes free. This is manufactured. Prove it, but you'll need time for that. Time you don't have. The gauntlet starts at dawn. Zara struggled against the guards. Kai, don't you dare withdraw. Fly show them what broken means. They dragged her away. Sable grabbed my arm. You can't compete now. We need to get her out. Vex, I said. Can you help Zara? The xenoanthropologist had been standing in the shadows. Observing, always observing. I will protect her, Vex said quietly. She is friend. You taught me this concept. I will not fail it. I looked at Cinder, at Sable, at the impossible choice in front of me. Corvus wanted me to choose. To sacrifice Cinder to save Zara. To prove that sentiment was weakness. He forgot that humans don't leave people behind. I'd compete and save Zara. I just had to win first. Storm Gauntlet. Dawn. 12 dragons entered. The bravest and most skilled. Each one a champion. The storm churned on the horizon. Lightning crackled through clouds in bizarre patterns. Electromagnetic chaos. Deadly to dragon flight organs. Deadly to electronics. Most competitors wouldn't finish. Some wouldn't survive. I removed Cinder's generator. The cavity in her chest looked wrong. Empty. Like I'd taken her heart out. My hands shook. You're enough, I whispered. You always were. Cinder chirped 4 times. I pressed my forehead to hers. I trust you too. The betting odds flashed on the displays. Obsidian King, the 3-time champion, favored at 1-2. 800 kilograms of perfect engineering. Undefeated in endurance events. Cinder at 1-5,000. Good. We did better when underestimated. The first 8 dragons launched. Within 2 minutes, all 8 had fallen. Electromagnetic interference fried their organs. Safety nets caught them. Medical teams rushed in. Obsidian King went next. He was magnificent. Raw power forcing through the storm's edge. Muscle overcoming physics. He made it to 75% of the course. Then the storm intensified. Natural fluctuation. His organ overloaded. He seized midair. Fell. Nets caught him. But he was out. Cinder's turn. She stood at the launch point. Frame unpowered. Wings trembling. I couldn't help her now. Could only watch. She launched. Wobbled immediately. The frame provided structure, but no compensation. Her damaged wings struggled. She was lifting on 15% organ function and nanites alone. My heart stopped. She was falling. No, wait. The nanites were spreading, forming patterns in her wing membrane, like circuit boards made of light, creating makeshift support where the frame couldn't. She climbed, entered the storm, all telemetry cut out. Screens went black. I couldn't see her, couldn't hear her. 90 seconds of silence. The longest 90 seconds of my life. Corvus stood in the guild box smiling. It's over, Mercer. Withdraw her corpse. No. Come on, Cinder. You're stronger than this. You survived 7 deaths. You flew with half a frame. You can fly through a storm. Electromagnetic pulse. Massive. The kind that precedes lightning strikes. Screens flickered back on, and then she erupted from the top of the storm cloud. Her frame was destroyed, hanging by metal threads. But her wings, the nanites, had replaced 40% of the membrane. Glowing blue patterns like living circuitry. She wasn't flying. She was surfing the electromagnetic field itself, dancing with Kay, using the storm's energy instead of fighting it. She descended toward the finished platform. Not gracefully, a controlled crash. The frame disintegrated on impact. She stood smoking, bleeding nanites pulsing dim. 4 chirps. I flew. The crowd was silent. 100,000 beings. Total silence. Then eruption. Standing ovation. Screaming. Chanting. Aliens and humans together. Cinder, Cinder, Cinder. I was running. Didn't remember deciding to move. Just suddenly beside her. Arms around her neck, crying again. You did it. You actually did it. Corvus descended to the arena floor. His face was pale, controlled. Illegal augmentation, nanite integration violates purity regulations. The guild judges hesitated. The crowd was booing, drowning him out. I stood, faced him across the platform. The nanites were already there. You put them there. Project Seraph. 7 dead pilots. You killed them. Harvested the biotech. Sold it to black market. You have no proof. Every screen in the arena lit up. Documents, financial records, communications, Corvus authorizing terminations, nanite sales, 14 million credits in illegal transactions. Seraph 7 survived bonding. Terminate and extract. Buyer confirmed. His own words, his own signature. Zara's voice came over the speakers. Hey Corvus, Vex and I just spent 12 hours in your detention center hacking your private servers. Guards thought we were sleeping. Turns out you kept receipts of everything. Humans call that stupid. Guards moved toward Corvus. He backed away. You tried to kill her twice, I said. Once when the bonding succeeded. Again at these trials. You failed both times. Because you don't understand what makes something valuable. Lord Kelthar stood in the guild box. Corvus Thorn, you are stripped of all guild positions, banned from trials, and you will face criminal prosecution for murder, fraud, and corruption. 17 worlds have filed charges. You will never see freedom again. As guards took Corvus away, he looked at me. Real emotion on his face for the first time. Fear. You forgot something. I called after him. On Earth, we don't leave anyone behind. That includes people you threw away. The judges deliberated for 20 minutes. Final ruling, Cinder 7th place overall. Highest ranked modified dragon in trials history. New division approved adaptive class. For healed and modified dragons. They offered me a position, director of rehabilitation, full guild authority, unlimited budget. I declined. I don't work for institutions that break things. I'm building my own. 3 months later, Phoenix Refuge occupied an entire wing of Outpost Cinder, 40 dragons in rehabilitation, each one written off as worthless, each one learning to fly again. The first dragon we saved after Cinder, we named Maya. When she flew for the first time, Sable stood beside me and cried. Happy tears, she said, the kind Maya would have wanted. Zara ran the engineering, youngest chief engineer in sector history. She'd installed herself in the position. I hadn't argued. Sable handled medical. Vex documented everything and occasionally committed crimes with Zara. I was okay with this. I worked on a new frame for a 3-legged dragon that arrived yesterday. Guild called her hopeless. Zara called it Tuesday. Let's get you flying, I said. The dragon chirped nervously, uncertain. Cinder walked over, touched her snout to the new arrival's head, made her rumbling happy sound. Don't worry, we were all broken once. Later that evening, I took Cinder up for a flight, me in a small hovercraft, her beside me, dozens of rehabilitated dragons joining us, a whole flock of impossible things. You know what's funny, I said. I came to this station to buy ship parts, lost everything instead. Got a dragon, a kid, a scientist, a Xeno who thinks we're fascinating disasters. Cinder chirped 5 times. A new sound. I'd learned what the 4 chirps meant. I flew. 5 was different. I flew free. Yeah, I whispered. Me too. We flew together over Outpost Cinder. over the industrial sector where this all started, over the cargo bay where she'd first crashed and risen again. The nanite patterns on her wings glowed in the darkness, forming words in bioluminescent script. Chosen, not broken, not fixed. Chosen. People ask me if it was worth it. Losing my ship, my savings, almost getting killed. I tell them I didn't lose anything. I found everything. Discarded things don't need perfection. They need someone willing to believe. Cinder taught me that. Or maybe I taught her. Maybe we taught each other. The galaxy said she was worthless. We proved worth isn't given. It's chosen. That's all any of us want. To be chosen, to matter, to be seen as more than our scars. Cinder mattered. She always did. We just had to prove it to everyone else. Below us, the refuge lights glowed, 40 dragons finding their wings, 40 stories of refuse becoming resilience. More would come. Word was spreading. 17 species had requested human rehabilitation advisors. The guild was fracturing. Reform was coming. All because one mechanic refused to walk away from a dragon no one valued. All because broken crayons still color. I finally understood what that meant. Cinder called out. That 5-chirp sound, joy and freedom and everything we'd fought for. Other dragons answered. A chorus of the discarded, the unwanted, the impossible, flying together under alien stars, choosing each other, choosing hope, refusing to believe in broken. Xenoanthropologist log, final entry. Vexthar recording. Documentary complete. 2.4 billion views. 17 species requested human rehabilitation advisors. Guild fractures. Adaptive division grows. I came to observe. I was changed. Humans taught me family is chosen, not assigned. Broken is temporary. Worth is inherent. Kai asked if I regret losing objectivity. I said objectivity is lonely. I prefer this. Final conclusion. Humanity is not species. It is philosophy. One alien can be human if they choose compassion over efficiency. I choose. This is Vexthar, formerly xenoanthropologist, currently family, signing off. Vex, stop narrating and help me. Zara's voice echoed through the workshop. She was elbow deep in a frame assembly, tools scattered everywhere. I was concluding, Vex, she's right. I looked up from my workbench. 3-legger needs calibration. Cinder made an amused chirp. Vex sighed, a very human sound from a very non-human throat. Humans, Vex muttered. We laughed. All of us. Human, dragon, alien. Family. Found, not given. Chosen, not assigned. Broken things learning to fly. Together.